Well, thanks very much, Leanne. Well, we are joined now by Advocate Dali Mpofu, who, as many of you will know, is the lawyer for the families in the Marikana Commission. Advocate, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Vuyo. Good morning.
Your reflections a year later, where the victims of the Marikana killings and their families today. What can you say about them and their condition?
Well, Vuyo, it's on the sad side, there are aspects that one can say have not changed. There's a lot of anger still out there, which we experience, those of us who interact with these people on a daily basis. There's still a lot of question marks. But having said that, I think that an event like today's is an opportunity to take the country and the victims themselves to another level. And that is why we're anxious and hopeful that today's event will be a success. And the workers are very determined that it becomes a success. Because if it is, I think it will create a platform. Today is important, of course, but what is more important is what happens after today. Whether as a country we feel that we are getting to a stage where we say this will never happen again or not. And I think that kind of atmosphere, if it is indeed created, will go a long way in assuaging some of the remnant anger and despair.
Now, as the group that was putting together everything, trying to prepare for this day, what is the one thing that you would like to achieve? If there was one thing you want to come out of today's commemoration, what would that be?
As I've said, the first thing, one of our greatest deliverables was inclusivity. And that is why on Tuesday, if you remember, at our media conference, we emphasized that we have been entrusted by the workers, which is a privilege on its own, to ensure that this event becomes a success. And they have said in their own words that it should be inclusive. So that is the more the inclusivity, the better.
But that inclusivity remains elusive, considering the fact that the government ministers that we were told at some point may come are no longer coming. The NUM and Solidarity are no longer taking place. And the idea by some of the clergy that perhaps the NUM and AMCU specifically should perhaps share the stage, none of that is going to happen.
Yes, well, you know, it's one step at a time, Vuyo. Peace cannot be made in one day. I think to the extent that the event will be inclusive, that should be welcome. To the extent that some people are not participating, I hear that there's talk of pulling out. In my dictionary, you only pull out if you were in, as it were. I know that some of the people had been invited, but as I said, the real invitation was open-ended, and no South African or anybody who wanted to come here was going to be excluded. I think the only body that was invited specifically was the NUM, because the AMCU president felt that he should make that gesture. And we're still hopeful that, that they will come. Yesterday I had an opportunity to interact with one of the senior officials of the NUM and found that one of the reasons they were not coming, for example, was because they had seen a so-called program that I explained to him is not our program. And he will see today that our program is different from that one. So obviously there are also people who are trying to undermine the efforts to peace. But as I say, if it's not today, it should be soon. We must pray that one day soon the leaders of NUM and AMCU will, in front of these workers, hold hands and show that the peace can then be brought down to the levels where it is needed most.
Now, lastly and very briefly, your meeting with, you're part of the meeting with the Deputy President yesterday. What was that all about, and what was the message communicated to you by the state via the Deputy President?
Well, I'm not at liberty to say all the things that we discussed there, except that what I've already said was the kind of sentiment where the government is the government of the day. It's a democratically elected government. government. And we saw it as our duty to assure them that our intentions are the same, which is to ensure that this becomes a success.
Advocate Dali Mpofu, thank you very much for talking to us. Well, Advocate Dali Mpofu represents families of the Marikana victims at the Commission of Inquiry, looking into the events and what transpired on that fateful day. It's back to you, Leanne.